We are here today with Saffron Henderson, who I have known for approximately 1 million years, which might date us a little bit, but we've known each other a long, long time. And we've actually worked together in a bunch of capacities. And why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and where you came from and sort of your journey in the biz?
In the biz is a big word, right?
The biz is a big word.
There are many corners of the biz, and I think I've explored a lot of them. So I grew up singing and dancing, something that my mom's family couldn't afford for her to do. And she made this huge priority of, if Camille and I, my sister, wanted to learn how to tap dance or sing, or we were interested in acting, like she found a way. In fact, At one point, we didn't have a lot of money, and she couldn't afford mom and dad couldn't afford our dance classes while times were tight. So she became a photographer, figured that out, shot headshots, and proceeded to pimp us out, however we could make a little cash to pay for our dance classes. So all of my early TV and film work was really to support my own dance and singing and all of that.
She was a creative thinker.
Yeah. And it worked, because we got to do all these great things. And I didn't care about, when I was 14, really did not care where the money was going.
Yeah.
It was going to our family. So that was all good. And then I loved it so much. I was working on film and TV throughout high school and musical theater and keeping up with all those practices. And the voiceover part of it was interesting, because I was used to singing in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was used to singing in the studio with you. Like that's one of the things that we did together early on was to sing. I think we sang a SunRype jingle. Is that right?
We might have. I think we might have.
SunRype jingle.
Yeah.
And you and your brother Josh, and then myself and a couple other of our little ladies, who were the singing group that we cut our teeth on singing parts and singing. I just have to show you something very funny. The stylus is magnetic and just attached itself to my bracelet. And I'm just vibing on that. Sorry, it was just a tiny distraction. So we sang together in the studio. It was great. I remember singing lots in that studio at Little Mountain Sound. That was an awesome place.
Yeah.
And Dad made records there, and your dad recorded all kinds of stuff there, music and major commercial campaigns. And at one point, Dick Abbott was working in there as well. And I was singing, it might have been for the Irish Rovers or something like that. And no, it had to be later, because I was puny at that time. He came over once while I was in the studio and said, "Hey, would you come next door and just read this voiceover script I have for a commercial?" And I was like, sure. And I started doing voiceover work after that. And I think the first one I did was with April Telek, who's a great actor who lives in Vancouver. She's awesome.
Yeah.
And you see her all the time on TV and film. And with this guy, just a total little puke, Jason Priestley.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so clearly he was at the beginning of his career, and I might have been at the zenith of mine.
Jason Priestley, my dad always liked to say that, like, he gave him his first acting job. I'm not so sure that's really true, but I believe that you were in that same Diet Coke commercial.
Jason Priestley was in the Diet Coke commercial?
I believe so.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because see, I just remember the guy, the big muscle guy that I was on the beach with in the Diet Coke commercial.
Was whose line is it anyway? What's his name?
Ryan Stiles?
Yeah, wasn't he in that as well?
Probably. We need to dig this commercial out.
Oh, do we ever? We need to. Okay. Some like resourceful listener needs to like link that Diet Coke. And probably nobody knows what we're talking about.
What was it, like 1981 or something?
Oh, I don't think it was quite that early, but it was,
really?
it was early to mid 80s, and it was like a Diet Coke can running on the beach, right? Something like that.
That was probably Ryan Stiles.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Or maybe Jason Priestley, because he was fairly ugly. So you'd want to cover him in a Coke can. Yeah, that commercial was just insane. How do you do swears on your podcast?
Oh, go for it.
How fucked up is it that I had to audition in a bathing suit in front of your dad and some other executives in this company? Oh.
Yeah, there's some weirdness there.
Well, that's just the life of modeling. That's just modeling.
That's right. And the things that we do to piece together a life in the industry, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, on this podcast, we're sort of talking about life in the industry through the lens of what I wish I'd known then that I know now, being, a veteran of a few years, in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. When I think about the Diet Coke commercial, the only thing I wish I'd known was that my period was coming.
No, that would have been pertinent information, right?
They did give me the bathing suit in the end. I did get to take that home. They were kind of disgusted that I had to switch bathing suits in the middle of the shoot. And I was like, I had no idea. Anyway, I was like 16 years old, if that. So
that's like a pertinent, I wish I'd known then what I know now. Track your cycle, right?
Yeah. If you're ever going to be wearing a bathing suit in a commercial, you will get your period at the beach on location. Just how it's going to be. Anyway, that was kind of tragic and a little bit embarrassing for a teenager, but wow. Things that I wish I knew.
So like I can ask you some questions, but like you have worked in your career, you've worked as a singer, you've worked as an actress, you've worked as a dancer, you've worked as an actress both on camera and on the microphone, like advertising voiceovers and animation voiceovers. So you've really done like a lot of different pieces within the scope of performing arts, right?
And dubious stage acting as well.
Okay, I didn't know
so
that.
lots of pieces. Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's not true. I saw you in a play at the Arts Club.
Yeah.
Way back.
Yeah. 8 shows a week of Blues in the Night.
Yep. I saw that show.
There you go.
There you go. See, all the things.
Yeah.
So let's start here. If you were starting your career over, what would you do differently?
Wow. I mean, there's like a big part of me that's like nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
But I would bumble through the way I had. Well, the biggest thing, this one's kind of painful actually, is I probably wouldn't have listened to my dad as much.
Okay.
Because at one juncture in the 1990s, I was offered a publishing deal with a smallish company called Chrysalis, but they were a successful outfit. I was writing songs in LA with Christopher Ward, who you know.
I sure do.
That's right. In fact, I connected you two. That's so funny.
Absolutely did.
Crazy.
And for listeners who might not be familiar with Christopher's name, he was one of the original VJs on Much Music, and he's written some songs that you might know, like, I don't know, a little ditty called
Black Velvet.
Yeah. So you know his work, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. Alana Miles. So yeah, he co-wrote and co-produced that record and some other great stuff.
Yeah.
And I worked with him for a few years writing songs until it became abundantly clear that I was going to be too old a horse to bet on.
So painful.
I know. He didn't come out and say, "You're just too old. I'm done." But it's hard to get deals when you're not in your early 20s.
That is
even though there were some exceptions at that time.
Yeah. Like and
Meredith Brooks.
There always are some exceptions.
Yeah.
But the larger rule is that kind of is an unfortunate reality of the industry.
So I'm staying at a Hyatt on Sunset Boulevard. And I've been offered this deal and faxed this deal
Yes.
to the hotel. And I'm examining it and I'm like, gosh, should I do it? Like they're offering $50,000 as an advance. Again, this was the 1990s.
Yeah.
And I could make double that just doing voiceover in Vancouver. Like, I don't know. It's a big commitment. They get my whole catalog. They get all the publishing on my whole catalog. P.S. My catalog is very active. I'm making a ton of cash.
Yes.
So it's really great. I kept my publishing. But I was like torn because Meredith Brooks had waited to get a record deal and then signed a $600,000 publishing deal. That's a publishing deal. And Christopher had told me that story and I was like, oh, well, that sounds like the right order to do things. Then you get the record deal first.
Yeah.
So anyway, I consult a lawyer, but I also consult my dad. And he's just like, no, they'll own you. They own your publishing. They get all these songs you've been working on for 10 years. Those are all theirs. You should try to keep your publishing. They should be offering you a lot more than that if they want to have your publishing and buy your catalog. And I'm like, oh. And he felt that there was also, that was Christopher's publisher. So he I think thought maybe it would be better if I had my own, a spot at a different publisher.
Yeah.
So that they're looking out for my interests, because Christopher was a horse they could bet on. He was writing great songs and getting great advances. And acquiring me would be like a side thing at that time for them. But so it was a baby deal. Dad said it's a baby deal. And, like you're 27 or 28 or 29. Was that 29? I was 29 at that point. Been working with Christopher for a bit. And I didn't take the deal. And I remember hanging up the phone after talking to my dad, and also hanging up the phone after talking to Christopher, and just dissolving in sobs both times. I was so conflicted. And it literally felt like, like Christopher and Dad liked each other well enough, but it was really, I was really in the middle.
Yeah.
And I really wish that I'd said, fuck it. This is going to be fun. They're going to fly me to Nashville to work with writers in Nashville. I'm going to get to work with all these guys that I'm working with in LA. I'll get to work with more of these guys in LA. I'll get to do all these. And I wish that I hadn't let my dad protect me, because really shitty things could have come of that deal. Yeah. It could have been worse than, like, you hear about artists going into negative balance as far as their profits go because of their fucking record company and their fucking publisher and all the limos that are needed in order for their record to be made that they're not even in. It's the executives. Yeah. Yeah. And like I've looked at deals where they would say things like, your first record, so-and-so gets to produce it and gets to decide all the material and gets to make all the decisions. Your next record, we get to choose whoever we want. And they get to have whatever budget they want. And that's how artists wind up in the negative dollars. Is that some producer, good or not, comes by and's like, yeah, I'm gonna need to be in a penthouse. I'm gonna need 4 limos a day. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? And they start racking it up. I need champagne in the control room. Yeah. Fuck, I don't know, hookers. I don't know. But hookers and blow. Right? Could be hookers and blow. And they might find a way to expense that. And guess who's paying that before any royalties come in? That's the artist. And that's considered part of the quote budget, unquote. So my dad was definitely trying to protect me from some really ugly realities, some of which he'd already been through. And so just for any listeners who actually don't know who your dad is, your dad is Bill Henderson of Chilliwack. And prior to Chilliwack was the Collectors. And your dad is actually going to be a guest on the show as well. Yeah. Great. So
I won't ask him about this.
Oh, fuck, don't bring it up.
I will not. I will not. But so he knew what he was talking about. He wasn't just some Joe trying to protect his daughter. He actually had industry experience. However,
When you're, and I say this, I use the term loosely, young,
yeah,
you take the baby deals.
yeah, yeah.
You take the baby deals. I was very established in voiceover.
Yeah.
I was established in singing in bars and weddings and bar mitzvahs in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I was even established in, singing on people's records in the studio, and like really amazing talents that I've been able to work with in Vancouver and LA.
Yeah.
But I wasn't established as a singer-songwriter or a recording artist.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to take the baby deal, and I didn't, because of all the awful things that could have happened to me. And so none of the wonderful things that could have happened to me occurred.
Yeah.
I took myself out of the game. I think, and it was very disheartening for Christopher. I think that really freaked him out. I would be maybe freaked out too. Like, why didn't you take it?
Yeah.
And my dad being like, why would you take it? So I had that going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, my biggest regret, if we're allowed to have regrets and not be like, everything happens for a reason, I'm so much better off. My biggest regret would be saying no to things that my dad or parents might want to protect me from.
Mm-hmm.
And bad shit still happened.
Yeah.
It's just,
fortunately, bad shit happens no matter what road you go down. That is just part of, I don't think it's part of just this industry. I think it's part of any industry potentially. So,
especially for women.
Especially for women.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I had someone shop me for managers in LA right around the time I did an amazing show called Big Break.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard of it. Yeah. So really huge.
I hear it was your big break.
It was not at all. In fact, it was me sitting in a hotel room bedazzling my, like this tunic top that I had with these little jewel things. And I was putting all the jewels in to make it fancy enough for television. Fuck me. Oh my God, it was so funny. Anyway, someone who I think cared about me and definitely was well positioned in the business, albeit she was more TV. She was shopping for a manager with me in LA. And one of the places we went was a huge, and I won't say his name, a huge lawyer in the entertainment industry. And she said, this guy's the real thing. Like, he manages blah, 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 blah. Like, I think it was like Whitney Houston and Janet Jackson or Michael Jackson or Prince, or I don't know who it was. But
some
I mean,
big names.
Yeah. And I don't know if he was necessarily managing them, but it was that lawyer position where you're at least co-managing, or you're their lawyer, which is as important as their manager.
You're a big part of the team.
Huge part of the team. Like the make one phone call guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she brings me in to see him. And he's like, oh yeah, great to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, what do you think? And he goes, I'll be honest with you. I think you're great. I listened to your songs. Sound great. You're a great singer. You're lovely. But nobody wants to manage a woman. And I'm like, what? I don't know. I was 19, 20. And he said, fuck, was I 18? I don't even remember. Oh, it's a blur. It was last century. So he's like, yeah, nobody wants to manage a woman. And I said, really? And he's like, yeah. I mean, there's like Tina Turner and Whitney Houston. That's it. Nobody wants to manage a woman. And I was like, why? And he said, women want different things. Their careers tend to be shorter. They have babies and raise families. They don't want to be on the road. Nobody wants to deal with it.
Same old BS.
You know what? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, fuck off. But anyway, that was just an early imprint. That was way before I was working with Christopher.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had never heard those words because they were untrue, i.e., like, I think Alanis Morissette was just about to
Yeah.
launch, early 90s. And so many other super powerful female artists
Yeah.
that
changed the paradigm.
changed the paradigm. I wasn't that person.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an easy out for him to say that too. God, he might have looked at me and gone, that one's going to gain 50 pounds in 20 years. And I just don't want to be part of it. I don't know. I don't know what his real thoughts were, but his attitude was pretty, we was just going to say misogynistic.
Yep. Yep. There's plenty of that to find in this industry.
And that's all
sure.
That's all I tripped on. I tripped on that hard in my 20s, even my 30s.
Yeah.
It was lightening up. The misogyny has improved.
Mm-hmm.
Like now, if I were to go to a studio in a skirt, people wouldn't go, "Whoa, she has legs." You know, like they would probably know not to.
They would maybe just keep their mouths shut.
Or they might just say, "Hey, you look great. I don't see you dressed up normally," or "I've never seen you wear a skirt. You look fantastic." Like, I can handle that from a guy, creepy guy even, I can handle that from. But
shouldn't have to. But
well, whatever. I mean, we get in the name of keeping each other extremely comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
We start to get offended by people trying to say nice things to us, and they're bumbling around, and maybe there's a more neutral way to appreciate that somebody's put some effort into their appearance, or that you're just brightening their day by walking in a yellow dress or whatever.
Yeah.
And how nice that is. And so I don't know that I agree that it's like we're wrong to value it. It's all about the vibe.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is about the vibe. And, you know, these days someone might say, "Oh, wow, you look so sexy," and then go, "Wow, that was really inappropriate. I never should have said that." But in the day, they were allowed to say more than that.
Yeah. So looking back on your career, we talked about like, what would you do differently?
Yeah, yeah.
So the flip side of that is, what did you do right?
Oh, I think the biggest thing I did right was to show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to let my joy for the work that I do come through and be a part of our experience together while we're working.
Yep.
And that means being collaborative, or knowing my place and being directed and silent, or, you know, it's different things in different situations, or showing leadership when someone really needs to pick up the reins in a situation, and really just showing up to do that, and being and loving the work, even though sometimes it's really hard.
Yeah. Like from the perspective of working as a singer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's singing live and singing in the studio. There's being the artist. There's being a lead singer in a for hire band. And there's like BG work, where you are not the feature, you are the background. And every one of those roles requires a different like offshoot of the same skills, right? Do you want to, and I know that you have actually worked in every single one of those. I cannot find the word I want. That's the one.
Capacities?
You have worked in every one of those capacities. So do you want to talk a little bit about how they differ and what skills are required in the different arenas?
Yeah, sure. So coming from the singer, songwriter, recording artist spot first, that is a self-starter times a billion. The skill of all of those singing little corners of music business are, you're basically having to field rejection after rejection. But the most tender, personal rejections are the ones that you get as an artist, a singer, songwriter.
Yeah.
who's trying to write and record their own material and find support for that. So in this day and age, you actually have to do it yourself, create the music yourself, fund it yourself, and pretty much produce and present it yourself, unless you have insane cash.
Yeah.
So the stamina and the I don't give a shit what you think of me, I'm still doing this, that part I don't have enough of. And maybe there's a time for my music and my voice, but it hasn't come yet because I worked on it for years and didn't get where I wanted to be and thought, I'm making good money just being hired to sing. And I get to perform and I get to look people in the eye and sing and have an energetic exchange with them. And I'm very lonely in my little writing room. And I'm not a good enough musician to just take it to a coffee shop and do it myself. So
the other piece, because you and I have, so you went much further as a singer, songwriter, artist, like trying to break in there than I did. But we have a lot of parallels in our history where, I sort of wanted to go down that road too. And I have to say, as an older person looking backwards, I'm actually just so grateful that that's not where my life went.
I hear that. There was a point where I was in my 30s or late 20s, early 30s, still working on music and going, wait a minute, am I ready? Someone said, are you ready to cross Canada in the dead of winter in the back of a van? And I went, fuck no.
Yeah.
Look, I'm never ready for that. I'm ready to be Sarah McLachlan on The Tonight Show and Letterman. I'm ready to stay at 5-star hotels in the major cities. I'm ready to have an entire bus just for me.
Yeah.
And my pets. And that's what I'm ready for. But
the other piece that comes along with that I see is the loss of privacy that comes with that level of success. And so Saffron and I had a band together for a number of years, and we got to do what I thought was the super fun stuff. We got to make music together in a band that we loved and have a ton of fun in the performance aspect together.
Yeah.
Without the loss of privacy, with the exception of maybe like flying to Port something in the dead of winter and with no sleep. Like we had a couple of, traveling rough road trips, but by and large, our work didn't involve that. So we just got what I felt was the real joy of it without the hardship of it.
Yeah.
Where I see people at a much higher level of success who, can't eat in a restaurant without their dinner being interrupted 5 times, or can't, like you say, traveling across Canada in the dead of winter in a tour bus or whatever, what have you. Like there are definitely some pieces of that level of success that I think we fail to consider as younger aspiring artists.
And we would endure more happily as younger and aspiring
100%,
artists.
yes.
Because we'd be like, this is exciting. And now we'd be like, I'm in bed by 9.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but there's another thing that you didn't mention, which I think is actually worse than the loss of privacy. And that is, and I've observed it with some very big stars and acts. And I'm not talking about my dad because he always had enough privacy, but enough like people would recognize him all over the place, but they were very gentle with it because it was before social media. It was before fandom was fandom, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there were always diehards, but do you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't as invasive a situation for just like a recording artist as it
Bit
is
of a
now.
different generation of fandom.
We have a whole celebrity, like cult of celebrity thing going on that was not happening. So he had it easy in that way. But some other major stars that I've seen, the biggest problem that I've noticed about life for them is that everyone says yes to them. Everyone says, yes, that looks amazing. You look amazing. Oh my God, no, you look perfect. Everyone says to die for. Everyone says,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And everyone says, yeah, your ass looks perfect in those pants. and I think it's very, first of all, you think that everywhere you go, everyone is going to say yes. And it's fucking shock when they don't. And it's weird. And you feel very insecure when someone's like, actually, we're not going to get you 4 cases of champagne.
And it just really skews reality.
It skews reality. You don't know what's who do you fucking trust?
Yeah.
Even the people in your band have to kiss your ass. Everyone has to kiss your ass.
Their jobs depend on it, right?
Jobs are depending on it. And so business, like connections and relationships are depending on it. And you literally are responsible for hundreds of people's groceries and rent when you're a touring artist.
Yep.
So the pressure combined with people kissing your ass indiscriminately, confusing you.
Yeah.
It can get very Emperor's New Clothes. It can be very damaging. And that is the part that would terrify me more than losing privacy, would be not being able to know where people are coming from when they're kissing my ass. If they really do like my work, or they're just like paid to be here, fucking loving everything I do. Ooh, be weird.
Those are the pieces that I have to say as someone who is looking down the barrel at 50, looking backwards on my years where that was even a possibility, of making it, breaking it into being an artist. I'm grateful that that's not how things rolled for me. I am grateful that I got to experience music in a way that encompasses so much joy.
Yes.
And so much, like, it's so rewarding and so joyful for me, and doesn't have all that extra baggage to it.
Yeah.
So I have no regrets about that.
I agree. The only regret I really have is that my goal was to like heal the world or bring joy to people through my music and my words and my notes and my voice. And I wanted to be like this healing force and touch a lot of people. And that's what I envisioned as a young person. And I didn't do that. I'm not saying I haven't touched anybody. But
I'm not going to go too deep with that one.
Yeah. The scale is not what I planned, but I absolutely accept and understand that there are ridiculous trade-offs for that.
Yeah.
For example, when I go into the studio to sing background vocals on an artist's record, I feel like I'm in the womb. I literally was in the womb when Dad was recording. So Mom would be in the studio pregnant while Dad was rocking out. And my comfort level in that kind of environment is ridiculous. It is my happy place. Being on stage is also a happy place, but it's not the womb. Yeah. It's like you've been born and here you are saying, crying and the world and experiencing the world. That stage, it's raw. It's just been born. And the studio is like in the womb, crafting and creating in a very different way. So singing background vocals for people is just fucking delightful.
So
And
talk a bit more about that skill. Like we talked about the skill of being an artist and how that sort of differs from being a singer for hire, whether
yeah.
that's being the lead singer or whether that's being a backup singer, and how those things differ as well.
Well, in the studio is very different than on stage,
Yeah, agreed.
first of all. But so in the studio, like if I am hired to sing a songwriter's demo or sing for like a song for the Olympics or for the Commonwealth Games or like, like big events that they do that stuff, or Legoland, like we've done that kind of stuff. I'm definitely a hired gun when I'm singing a lead for somebody else's purpose. And it's really about bringing some creativity into the situation, being vocally able to do anything they can hear. And responding to their direction. And, as a background singer, the real magic is in knowing what the situation calls for, intuiting what the situation calls for, doing what you're told. And if they want input, being ready with ideas. And I can't help myself. So I've got tons of ideas going through my head the entire time. I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't stop. So it was very funny because we, a few gals and I got to sing on 5440's upcoming record. And Dave Genn said to me, hey, will you just like come up with some parts and arrange them? And he'd already put down some great parts. He played me the songs. I was like, oh, these are fantastic. And he said, well, I want to have you ladies sing on this record. So could you arrange some stuff or do some arrangements? And I'm like, well, yes, I could. Because I'm going to be just like unable to hold my tongue while we're in the session. You might as well get this over with. Yeah. So I go home and I'm like singing into GarageBand, not even on my mic, just like do, and putting like all these little parts over his tracks. Like I put his track in GarageBand and just absolutely vomited ideas all over the track. And then I'm like, okay, so I've got some ideas of which many parts do you want me to send it to you and you can check it out and decide what you want to use? And he goes, nah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, just do it at the studio. And I said, so are you going to kill them at the time or are you going to want to record them all and see which ones work? Like, what do you want to do? And he goes, we'll just decide at the time. We wound up doing every single one of my ideas. And I was like, this is crazy. But it was so fun. Yeah. And that was a situation in which my input was not only welcomed, but invited. So that was great. But those
are such rewarding situations too. And where you have the freedom and that piece of, let's just throw it all down because we can kill any of it in the mix that doesn't work. Yeah. So let's just get everything down so that we have it. Right. And when you're working with a producer who invites that, it's so fun as a singer, and it's not always the case.
It's not always the case. So
I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut.
It's hard. It's hard because to me, I'm like, I could turn this song into a hit with my Bee Gees, right? Like I feel like super like, what would be amazing. And then when I'm working with someone like Bob Rock, like we sing on Jan Arden stuff and Bob and some other people's stuff too, but Bob is the producer on those sessions and often the co-writer, like he and Jan write that stuff together. I've known him my entire life. Yeah. He knows, like he can probably see it starting in me and I'll be like, what would be really, shut up. You know what? Okay. And then eventually I get to throw an idea out there and sometimes we do it and sometimes it's like, yay. And other times it's like, we've got enough going on in this song. Yeah. So one of the skills is to know when to shut the fuck up. And that's a big skill in a studio situation where you are being produced. Yeah.
It really is. It's one that I still struggle with.
Well, it's really an important one, right? Yep. To develop because you have to have a tremendous amount of trust in each other to say what you're really thinking when someone's paying $400 an hour.
Yeah.
Like otherwise it really takes away from their recording day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you also have to feel free enough to sing well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I love recording Bee Gees and leads, but leads, there's a lot more pressure to make somebody's song work. And sometimes it's not a great song. And there's the work is like
so true.
Massaging the song and just trying to make more of it.
Yes.
Assisting the song. And this doesn't happen in very many of my situations. At this time in my life, I get hired by people that really trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And write really good songs. But that's not always been the case.
I'm just laughing because there have been times, and I am not going to name a single name here, but there have been times in younger years where some of us were hungrier for the paycheck, where there were projects that were hiring a singer to do the project, and it literally went through like every singer in town, and one by one, every singer turned it down because it was just not worth the money. You know what I mean? Because
so bad.
It was not great music. And it was a difficult writer thought they were a producer situation. And I think all of us eventually worked on that project. I'm the one that landed with it and stuck with it.
Type it in the chat. Type it in the chat. Type it in the chat right now. You have to type it in the chat. I won't blow it up. I promise I won't post on TikTok about it at all. Yeah. There's some people who've gone through a lot of singers.
Yeah.
And that is about them. That's a them problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So, tell me about what you see looking back on your career. What have been the most important? And I it's not that I need you to like name names, but it's more about the relationships. What have been the most important relationships in making your career successful?
Oh, well,
personal or professional, because those all factor in, right?
Oh. Wow. Okay. Well, let's start with VoiceOver Wise, my agent, for sure.
Yep.
Fantastic support, fights for fair rates, finds work, fields crazy people.
Yeah.
And has been just amazing. And I have a great one, and I've been very lucky to have two great agents.
And you've been with her for a lot of years. That's a long-standing relationship.
25 years or something.
Yeah.
Caroline Gilmore, because she just got married.
Congratulations, Caroline.
I love you. Yeah, she is really, really talented, as well as a great business mind, and she's just awesome. So that relationship, I could not have chosen better or landed better. The relationships with all of the people that it's really about multiple relationships. It really is. All the different people I've written with, sang for, studios that I've frequented, all those people together are like the reason that I'm still in the business. And relationships with people that will hire me to sing on their stuff, like Jan Arden and Bob Rock, like singing with 5440, with work that I do with Dave Genn. I even sing like Hallmark stuff with him. Like all of those people that whose work I just absolutely adore. When I get to work with them, it's a big deal. And feel really good about the relationships that I've had in the business. I don't have like a trail of bodies or skeletons in the closet or anything like that. Like if what I do works for them and they like me, then great. And if it doesn't, I have never felt any hard feelings. So yeah.
It brings us very nicely to where can people find you, including where can people learn the art of voiceover from you?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm on Instagram.
Yes.
I am saffron.voice.
Okay.
But I really want you to follow me on TikTok.
Yes.
Because that's where things get juicy.
Are you also saffron.voice there?
No, I'm just Saffron Voice.
Okay.
On TikTok.
So similar.
Yes. So Saffron Voice on TikTok would be like, if you're going to go to one place, please go there. And then if you're going to come to two places, Instagram is saffron.voice.
So a couple of like animation friends and I, really anime friends and I have created this little monster that we call Anime Time Machine, because so many of us have worked together in Vancouver doing the OG English dub voices for things like Dragon Ball Z, Inuyasha, Death Note, Hamtaro, like all these vintage anime shows.
Yeah.
Super fun. Yeah. So Brian Dobson is a voice actor, and Carl Willems is the guy who directed so many of us in these shows, like all through the ages, and continues to. Yeah. And so we are doing like lives, like we're doing an Instagram live this January 29th. So like Sunday, it's a Sunday, 11 a.m. PST. And we do Streamily signing. So I really would love it if some of your listeners go to our accounts. So on Instagram, we are anime.time.machine.
Yep.
And on TikTok, we are anime.time.machine. And on YouTube, we're just Anime Time Machine.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So
we'll link those in the show notes and everything.
Oh, thank you so much. Yep. So it's really fun because we sit around and chat. Just it's like being at a panel kind of, and people.
Are we talking like we're streaming a little mini Comic-Con just with you guys?
Kind of. And so people are in the chat and they ask us questions. And like the last one we did, I was so worried that we wouldn't have enough people asking questions that I made like a pile of awkward questions. Just like the worst questions possible, just to kind of spice things up if it was super dull. We never even got to our pile of awkward questions because the fans are so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they kept asking really interesting questions. So on YouTube, we've got like 3 1-hour videos from that last live. This next one will only be 2 1-hour videos, I hope. But we had a great time, and we signed things that you can buy at streamily.com. Yeah.
So can you explain that a little bit? Because I mean, I know I saw you guys posting about that the last time. I do not understand this Streamily signing business at all. Yeah. So can you explain that a bit?
Yeah. So basically when you're working with Streamily, they are your store that people can buy. So we're streamily.com/anime time machine. You go there, you look at we've got prints and we've got original art of some of our characters. And we've got Funko Pops, which are those little toys. They're really cute. And you can buy those. And then on our live on January 29th, we will sign those to your specification and they get shipped out to you by Streamily.
That's very cool.
So Streamily is like a service. They're not the platform that we're streaming from. Like we'll be on Instagram, on our Instagram account for sure. And we might try to do YouTube at the same time. Let's see. And so that's the platform, is Instagram. And once we have 1,000 followers on TikTok, which God knows how we're going to do that. We probably have 15 right now. Once that happens, we'll also do lives on TikTok.
Yeah, I gotcha. Oh, is that how it works on TikTok? See, I'm so new to TikTok. I don't know these things, but you have to have enough followers to be able to go live.
1,000. You have to get on TikTok. You have to have 1,000 to go live, and you have to have I think you have to have 1,000 to make playlists.
Okay. See,
Yeah.
you didn't know that you were getting a social media course from two old broads.
Follow me for more tips. Follow me for more tips. I mean, I'm on TikTok as myself too, as Saffron Voice, but I'm really happy to share the anime time machine part of it with you, because we're just sort of discovering the fans of the stuff that we worked on, and they're sort of discovering us. And a lot of people say things like, you guys are my childhood, which is so sweet, because we're old and we're like, what? Like, what we did served a purpose. So it's really fun.
That's very cool.
To do that with these guys. Yeah. And we're going to have a special guest on January 29th, because all our anime voice actor community is just, quite lush. So
yes.
Yeah, so we're just bring people onto the time machine.
That's very cool. So, and it's a surprise guest. We don't get to know how to.
Well, I can tell you. And
ooh, info.
Yes, no, it's Jason Simpson, and he's a fantastic actor. So he's got tons of prelay credits, like you've seen him on all kinds of cartoons. Heard him. But also, like, he was on Death Note, which is one of the shows I did, and Inuyasha, one of the shows I did. He Dragon Prince, there's another one. Dragon Prince is one that he's known for right now, that people are excited about. And he's just a fantastic guy. And he created this little bit of art that I sent to you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
And time machine. And we said to him, because he is an artist, we said, would you do like just a caricature, like, of our three heads? Just like a black and white, like you went to the PNE and you got this character. And do you mind? And he just like poof, made this gorgeous. It's really fun. It's a fun shot.
That's very cool. And we will share that on our social. And
thank you.
Because I don't think we can put graphics in our show notes, but we'll put it out on our social, and we'll.
So nice. Thanks. Appreciate that very much. And Jason Simpson is going to be our guest on the 29th. So it's going to be a full house. It's going to be really fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Saf. This has been like so much information, so much great, juicy information. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope to be back soon. Maybe I can bring my friends.
Ooh, can't wait.
All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in. That was actually just the first half of my interview with Saffron Henderson. And I can't wait for you to hear the rest of the interview. So come on back on Thursday, and Saffron's got so much more to share with you after a lifetime of working in the music industry, being a voiceover actress, being a songwriter. There's so many like nooks and crannies to Saf's career. So we'll see you on Thursday.